Good day, everyone. I imagine we're in several different time zones, so I won't say what part of the day I'm greeting you in. I'm in New York, so it's just afternoon here. So welcome to this hour of meditation instruction. Meditation is, of course, core to our practice. I'd like to see a show of hands first. Is there anybody who has never practiced meditation before, or any kind of meditation? Great, so everybody's got some experience. So why do we sit? Why do we do meditation? In Zen practice, meditation is called Zazen. And Zazen is a Japanese term, comes from a Chinese term, and it's made up of two separate Japanese words, za and zen. So za means concentration. And za means sitting, and zen is concentration. Comes from chan, which is the Chinese word. So zazen is sitting concentration. That's what we're practicing. So we practice for many reasons, this sitting concentration, this silent contemplation, this zazen. Many practice because they want to simply quiet their minds and quiet the incessant chatter. Some practice in order to relieve psychological tension. Some practice in order to even relieve some organic difficulties, because quieting our mind has a deep effect on the entire body. Why? Because body and mind are one. So many different reasons to practice Zazen. But if you were to ask a practitioner in China 500 years ago why they had walked for weeks and weeks to a mountain in order to practice with a Zen master, they would say, I want to know who I am, or I want to realize my true nature. So that's the ultimate reason we're practicing meditation, in order to calm the mind to a point where we can actually experience who we are, who we really are. And what is that? Who we really are is one with everybody and everything in the universe. That's our true nature. We all have it. Doesn't matter race, creed, color, religion. We're one all together, and we have this same true nature, which is one with the divine. However you know the divine, and even if you don't know the divine exists, because we have to become one with something, and that's what we're becoming one with. And when we get a glimpse, which in Zen we call Kensho or Satori, we get a glimpse of that oneness. So Bernie Glassman, my teacher for many years, and Maizumi Roshi was also my teacher, who was Bernie's teacher. Maizumi was one of the first 3 Zen teachers to come from the East to teach in the West. They would both say, we practice meditation in order to realize the oneness and wholeness of life. Pretty good reason. So what I'd like you to do today is imagine yourself as that person on pilgrimage, finally getting to these far mountains and climbing up the mountain to reach a monastery where a Zen teacher is in residence. And they've basically left the old patterns of their life behind, all their identifications, all their belongings, and they've made this pilgrimage to find this teacher who's going to help them find out who they truly are. So I'd like you to listen to these instructions with that kind of aspiration, because the instructions are all important, and we need to pay attention in order to get them not only in our mind, but in our body. So one of my Zumi Roshi's teachers was Yasutani Roshi, wonderful teacher, Zen teacher. And he said, when you listen, and you're listening in a group, listen as though all that's being said is being directed to you alone. In other words, you're not dependent on the other people listening to remember some of it, because you don't remember all of it. And if it was directions, you're going to get lost if it's up to you. So please listen with all of your attention, because these instructions are given to you individually. So where you are in your home or wherever you're listening from right now, you may or may not be ready to actually assume the postures for Zazen. But if you're in a chair, that's going to work. So when we do Zazen, we either are sitting on a cushion, which elevates our body 4 to 6 or 8 inches above the ground, and we place our buttocks on the cushion and our legs and knees on the ground in front of us. And so the legs are in a position, various different positions. The easiest position is where your legs are just resting on the ground. Your knees are crossed, but your legs aren't resting on your thighs or your calves. It's a fairly easy place for the legs. The next most elevated stage for the posture is when you have your right leg, for instance, on top of your left calf. That's called quarter lotus position for the legs. You can just Google Zazen leg positions, and you'll be able to see all these demonstrated in pictures on the web if you don't know what they are. The next most elevated position for the legs is to have your right leg, could be your left leg, on top of the opposite thigh. So your right foot would be on top of your left thigh. That's called half lotus position. And then the most elevated position for the legs is where your right foot is on your left thigh and your left foot is on your right thigh, and that's called full lotus position. These leg positions that I've been talking about are for sitting on a cushion. Whenever you're sitting and you want to sit on a cushion, try to use the most elevated position you can for your legs. In other words, if you can't get your legs up off the zabuton of the floor without any effort, just leave them there, it's fine. But if you can do quarter lotus or half lotus or full lotus, great. The reason for the various positions is because the more elevated we are in terms of our legs, from being on the floor to the full lotus position, our body is more stable on the cushion. And we're just simply more stable, like a tripod. We're actually a tripod, and we've got both knees on the ground and the feet on opposite thighs, but it's not necessary at all. So you can also sit on a chair. And if you're sitting on a chair, I wouldn't suggest a couch. It's just too easy. And you don't get the flat support you need. So if you're going to do meditation on a chair, sit on a chair, but don't lean back against the back of the chair. You need to sit on the first quarter or half of the chair with your feet flat on the ground at a distance of your shoulders. That's the position when you're sitting in a chair. I don't know, some of you might be able to take that position now. Great. So once you've decided and taken a position for meditation, the next thing we do is to align the body and center the body. So first thing we do is we straighten our back. And so we lift we elevate our back, stretch it as far as you can up. Imagine someone holding on to a golden thread at the top of your head, and they're tugging slightly. So you're feeling your spine actually stretch upwards. And so feel it extend until the limit, and then just relax. So you're not stretching up anymore. The next thing to do, this is done whether you're on a cushion or on a chair, is we need to center the upper body above the pelvis. So the way you do that is you make small circles with your body, with your upper torso around the pelvis. So you're making small circles, and you make them smaller and smaller. And as you're making these circles, it's not an idea. What you're doing is feeling your body being pulled forward or backward or from one side to another. You're actually feeling gravity working on your torso. So you get to a point where you're finally, the circles have slowed down, you're in a stable position. Your back is, and your torso is centered above your pelvis. So to check that, first, you allow your upper torso to move forward a little bit, and you feel gravity pulling you. And then you bring it back to the center. And then you go backwards, feel it being pulled backwards, pull it back to the center. Same thing side to side. You move until you feel your body being pulled, and then you come back to the center. It's really essential to have your body centered above your pelvis, because if you're out of balance and you're listing one way or another, within 10 minutes or so, you're going to have a pain on the opposite side from where you're listing. So we're trying to reduce any pain we might have from the body being pulled forward or back or side to side. If in the middle of meditation, you find, for instance, pain along the left side of your torso, that means you're leaning the opposite way. So then you've leaned back into the pain, into a place where you're straight again and balanced again, and that pain should dissipate. So you've centered your body, checked it back and forth, side to side. Next thing is you move your head downward like 10 degrees, just slightly, from straight forward on your torso. You're moving it down a little bit. And we do that in order to, first of all, straighten the spine even more, but moving the head down a little bit puts it in balance above the body, even though it might not look like that. Because our head weighs a lot, and it's going to move our body whichever way it's tilting on the top of our torso. So we move it down just slightly. Next thing we do is we lower our eyes. We lower our eyes to 45 degrees or so. What that means is our eyes are not closed, and they're not even half open. They're halfway between closed and open. So that's where the eyes are, the position of the eyelids. We do that So our eyes aren't roaming and finding things to focus on. So eyes are, eyelids are down, and then we unfocus our eyes. The eyes are unfocused because we don't want to focus on anything that's even before us on the floor or on the wall, depending on how we're sitting, on a chair in a sitting position. Because if our eyes are focused in any way, like on a pattern on the floor or the rug or the wall, even the wall, a white wall can reveal patterns. We're going to find ways to busy our minds with these patterns that we find. So we unfocus our eyes. And the way we do that is we imagine we're looking downward in front of ourselves at a place, whether we're sitting on a cushion or on the chair, 4 or 5 feet in front of us. If we're looking at a wall, we just unfocus our eyes. But if you're sitting, not looking at a wall, you unfocus your eyes and by imagining you're focusing on something 100 feet beyond the floor. So you've got a wider focus and you're not looking at the floor anymore. You can do the same thing with the wall. If you're sitting facing a wall, just unfocus your eyes and look beyond the place where you might naturally be focusing. We're trying to reduce the potential for busyness in our minds so we can be more calm and quiet during Zazen. Next thing is we close the mouth, let the teeth touch slightly, and then we evacuate all the saliva in our mouth by gathering it and swallowing. So we're creating a vacuum in our mouth. When we do that, it's very unlikely that we'll have to swallow more than once, if that, during a period of 30 minutes of meditation. And with our eyes closed, not closed, but almost closed, we're reducing the habit of the blinking of the eyes. So we're really quieting the body for our meditation, making less things to distract us. Next thing is the shoulders. Take your shoulders and haul them back towards your spine and then release them. So that opens up your chest, opens up your heart. Then the next thing is your hands. So your hands are going to rest in your lap, and your hands are going to be in a position we call, very far out name, called the cosmic mudra. And in this, the way our hands are, the left hand is resting upon the right hand, and the thumbs are touching slightly, forming a bridge above your hands, your palms, just like that. So rest them softly in your lap, left hand on top of the right hand, thumbs slightly touching, slightly touching. So one of the indications about how our meditation is going is if our thumbs are together and they're pressing really hard, our nails are going to be white underneath. Why? Because we've got all that pressure. Why is there that pressure? Because we're thinking about something. Thinking about some problem we've got, something we need to face in the future, something we faced in the past. So if your thumbs are hurting and they're touching too strongly, just realize that in a moment of awareness and just let them go again and let them slightly touch. And if the thumbs have suddenly departed from each other and they're not touching anymore, what's that an indication of? Usually that we're sleeping, right? Or dozing or falling asleep, and there's no attention. So when we see that, we become aware of that, we just bring our thumbs back together. So our thumbs are interesting when they're held in this position, are a really beautiful indication of how our meditation is. If they're just softly together, our concentration is probably pretty solid. So one of our teachers used to say, hold your thumbs in a way that imagine you're holding a thin piece of paper between your thumbs in that position. And you're holding it so lightly but firmly that if somebody were to come along and try to take it away, they could remove it easily. So thumbs slightly touching. So that's the position of the body. In a sense, it's very simple, very, very simple. And this position of the body that we use for Zazen, sitting meditation, has been used for thousands and thousands of years. It's a deeply tested method for concentrating the mind with the position of the body. In a chair or in a Zazen position on a cushion. So whenever you sit, you'll get in a habit of sitting and, well, I know how to do this. I know how to place the head and the eyes and the mouth and straighten the back and get in balance. So we get in a habit of just sitting down and assuming a position. Always take the time, and it doesn't take very long, to review the instructions for sitting. So really do check your balance, because if we're not in balance, it's going to hurt and we're going to have to move our body back. Be sure the eyes are unfocused. Be sure you've evacuated the mouth. Be sure the hands are resting in the right position. Your shoulders have been thrown back and relaxed once again. So then you can be in your meditation. So we've found a regulated place for the body. And now we're going to talk about how to regulate the body, the breath, and the mind. So we talk about them as though they're three separate things. Actually, they're one. Body, breath, and mind are one. We talk about them differently, though, but they actually function as one. If the body's out of line, the breath and the mind are not going to be in good shape. If the mind's moving around too much, the body and the breath are going to be out of regulation. If they're all in harmony, everything's going to be quite nice and our awareness will be quite clear. We're aiming towards clear awareness. So first, I'll talk about the breath. So the instruction for breathing is very simple. We all know how to breathe. We breathe every day throughout the night without even thinking about it. When we sit in meditation, we think, well, I must control the breath. There must be some way to control the breath so it's done in the proper way. No. Actually, what we do when we're sitting in Zazen, in seated meditation, is we let the body breathe itself, which is what we do all the time. So now, I hope you've taken some form of meditation position. Just focus on your breath. And just feel how you're breathing. Just doing that focuses the mind. So there's a specific way that we breathe in Zazen, which is still natural. We're still allowing the body to breathe itself, but we're focusing on the breath in the belly. So our mind is going to focus on the diaphragm and its movement. Now, the diaphragm doesn't move in and out. It actually moves up and down, but it feels as though it's moving forward and back. So we're not breathing into the lungs. We're breathing into the lower diaphragm, into the belly. So when we're breathing like that, if you take a deep breath into the belly, you can actually feel your belly move out. And when you release that breath, you can feel it move back. And so what we're watching then is the movement of the diaphragm back and forth as we breathe naturally. So just watch that for a minute. So one of the ways we do zazen or meditation is to simply focus on the breathing. This natural breathing, watching the body breathe itself, and watching the diaphragm as it moves back and forth simply without any thoughts about it. We're just aware of that movement back and forth. So when we're watching the breath, just watching the breath as our meditation in the diaphragm, in the belly as it moves out back and forth. If we're really focusing on the breath, just simply focusing on the breath, just sitting, just with the mind on the breath, not anything else, not any other ideas, thoughts, dreams. If we're just focusing on the breath, we're going to find that the breaths are very shallow because it doesn't take a lot of breath to maintain the body when it's in a stable, quiet position, like our position for meditation. So if the mind is quiet, the breaths are going to be like a bird, very shallow in breath and very shallow out breath, and spaced. There might be even a little bit of time between breaths. That's what happens when our mind is quiet. But if we start to think, and we start to think, oh, I need to do this, or I forgot to do that, or I've got a problem with this person, whatever the thoughts coming up, our breath is going to become more accelerated. It's going to become deeper and heavier. You find yourself actually taking in deep breaths and out breaths. So what do you do then? You just bring your thinking back to the breath. Just go, oh, I'm supposed to be just watching my breath, following the breath. So you bring your attention back. And once again, the breathing will slow down and become more shallow. So when we're focusing on the breath and doing breath-focused meditation, we open up the throat, so there's just easy passage for the air all the way, and the sinuses are open too. So the breath just flows very smoothly from the nose into the lungs. Because we're so control-oriented, because we want to control everything, even though the truth is we don't have control over anything. We think we do. It's called an illusion. We want to control the breath, even we've been told we shouldn't. So one of the ways we do it is we listen to it. We listen to the sinuses as we're bringing the breath through the nose into the into the lungs because the mouth is closed, right? Or we hear it hissing through our throat. And we can make those noises in our throat, breath going in and out. If you find yourself doing that, just relax. Open up your throat, open up your nose and sinuses, and let the body breathe itself with a wide open passage. And once again, you'll breathe slowly, calmly, easily, quietly. So that's the breath. Now, how do we control the mind? What do we do about that? Right? So we sit in meditation and we do meditation practice in order to what? To focus the mind, in order to concentrate. That's what Zazen is, right? Sitting, concentration. If we were to just sit in this meditation position for 30 seconds without an object or concentration, we would notice very quickly how our mind's just moving to this thought, to that thought, to this dream, to that obsession, whatever it is. So uncontrolled, the mind just moves. It's its natural function. The rational mind moves because that's what it does. It's a natural thing. But in order to do Zazen, do meditation, we've got to focus the mind. Why are we focusing the mind? Because when we focus the mind, when we focus on one thing, the mind becomes like a laser beam. And it's just focused on that one thing. And when it's just focused on one thing very intently, very clearly, the mind has an opportunity for massive transformation. We're usually so busy with whatever we're thinking about, or of course our technological instruments, that the mind doesn't get any chance to be here now. This right now, where we are, is all there is. We think there's moment to moment, right? But there's not moment to moment. There's just this. There's just this right now. It's all there is in the universe for any being. So in our meditation, we're bringing our focus to this life as it is, this very moment, where everything is happening. There's no past, there's no future, there's just this. In order to do that, we've got to concentrate. So there are various ways to concentrate the mind. One way we do, and in a way we call it a beginner's practice, but I use it every day when I begin my meditation practice, is we count our breaths to focus the mind. So how do we count the breaths? Very simple. We're in our meditation posture, we've stabilized ourselves, we're sitting in a nice, relaxed position. We've looked at the breath, watching it flow in and out. We start counting the breaths by counting the in-breath as 1 and the out-breath as 2. And when we're doing this counting, we're focusing the mind in the belly. We're not counting from our heads, we're counting from our belly. In Japanese, it's called tendon or kikai, that area. So on the in-breath, we count 1, and the out-breath, 2. In-breath is 3, out-breath is 4. And we're hearing those numbers, we're counting those numbers in our belly. And we go up to 10 like that. So you're saying, great, I signed up for an hour of meditation instruction. He's going to tell me to count the breaths, and this is the way to find my way home. So it is a very simple instruction, and it's not so easy to do. If you've not done meditation before, you're going to find that you get to 5 and you're gone. You're suddenly at the store buying something, you're thinking about, some game you've been playing or a movie you saw. And what do you do when that happens? You just go back to 1. In breath is 1, out breath is 2. In breath is 3, out breath is 4. You just count again. And then you get to 7 and suddenly, you're gone again. And then you go, oh my God, I'm not counting anymore. So what do? You don't think, I'm never going to be able to do this. I can't even count to 10, right? Don't think that way. Just realize that it's a victory in the moment to see that your concentration has slipped. And so what do? You just return to the breath. In is 1, out is 2, in is 3, out is 4, like that. And I guarantee you, even for accomplished meditators, we can lose count on the way to 10 because everybody's got issues, problems, and we're not living in monasteries where we're sitting 7 hours a day, right? We're sitting 30 minutes, an hour, maybe even less every day. So our minds aren't used to being regulated and we're so distracted, right? So don't expect to count from 1 to 10 every time, or even once if you're not sat before. Just be patient with yourself, and when you lose count, return to 1. In is 1, out is 2, in is 3, out is 4, like that. Up to 10. And every time we catch ourselves with the mind wandering, that's awareness. That's mindfulness. That is meditation. So even though we think, oh my God, I can't be perfect, I'm not getting from 1 to 10, there are not too many people that are. But everybody that catches themselves and brings themselves back to awareness in the moment, which we're using now as counting the breath, or it could be just following the breath as it goes in and out, that is meditation, and that is concentration, and that is mindfulness. So let's do it. Let's take 3 minutes or so. So I'm going to ask you to get yourself in a position for meditation again on your chair or on the ground, however you're sitting. And straighten your back. Balance your body above your solar plexus, above the pelvis, back and forth, side to side. Find your center. Test it. Make sure you're not going to fall one way or another. Your head comes down slightly, 10 degrees or so. Eyes are open, but almost closed, 45-degree angle or so. And your eyes are unfocused. You're not focused on anything. You're focused 100 feet beyond whatever might be in front of your eyes. So your eyes aren't engaged. Mouth is closed, teeth slightly touching. Evacuate the saliva from your mouth. Swallow. Shoulders back and relaxed. Left hand on top of the right hand, fingers forming a bridge, thumbs slightly touching, just slightly. Find your breath. Let your belly go. Don't hold on to your stomach muscles. Let it just spill out. be totally relaxed in the belly area. Find your breath flowing in and out. And now let's do 2 minutes of just counting the breaths, starting now. Thank you for your practice. So you may have had a wide range of experiences. You might have been able to follow and count the breath a few times successfully. If you found your mind wandering, completely natural. Just don't be upset with yourself. Bring your mind back to the belly again and start again at 1. Just simply like that, without any self-criticism, nothing. Because we're trying not to move the mind. If we're thinking about ourselves, like, oh, I couldn't do it, I wonder if I'll ever be able to do it, that's just thoughts, right? It's not reality. It's just our mind moving. So you just come back to the breath and count in and out, 1 to 10. Now, many people who hear these instructions think, this is so simple. This can't be the way home. This can't be the way to realize my true nature or clear my mind or ease my psychological difficulties or even some of my physical issues. The truth is that it is the way. And although it sounds so simple, it can be the only instruction you ever hear to do Zazen. And if you do it with all your attention and all your awareness, you can just simply count 1 to 10 very clearly. And that kind of clear concentration can lead you to an opening, a mind opening, a complete transformation to see who you are, see the oneness and wholeness of life. It can happen. If it doesn't happen, do not worry about it, right? It's a rare thing for it to happen for people, but to simply keep our mind concentrated and to do this as a regular practice does transform our lives. It keeps us attentive in our lives, in the moment, in whatever we're doing, and it calms us as human beings. So practicing meditation is like physical exercise. If you, like many have had the New Year's resolution to practice, I'm gonna go to the gym 5 times a week, or I'm gonna do exercises at home so much, and then we stop doing it after a week, right? So we don't actually get in shape. So with meditation practice, it is important to practice it on a regular basis, and most regularly every day, right? So seasoned meditation practitioners practice 30 minutes a day, an hour a day, like that. If you're just beginning, don't practice for more than 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes a day is sufficient. Once you're practicing 10 minutes a day, you'll see your mind is calming down, and you can get to 10 more often. And if you get to 10 twice in a row, just go to following the breath in the belly. Simply just be aware of your breath. That's the next stage, called following the breath. So as much as you practice on a daily basis, that much more will be transformed as human beings, will calm down, will be more present, will be more pleasant to be around for everybody else in our life by calming ourselves down. One last thing before we go is that meditation isn't done without some other practices. What are those other practices? We've actually got to amend our lives as human beings. And we've got to be good and do good and be good people in order to be able to meditate. If we're out there causing problems for people, for our partners, for people we work with, for ourselves, if we've got issues with anger, criticism, gossip, whatever we're doing, we're not going to be able to meditate. Why? Because our mind is not regulated. We've got to regulate the exterior and interior life of our own in order to be able to begin to sit in a clear way. Because if our minds are upset by lying, killing, talking about others' errors and faults, I'm sure you might have encountered the 10 Zen Peacemaker precepts. If you haven't, look them up, because they're the ways we're regulating our lives in order to calm our mind. It's not we're trying to tell people you've got to live like this. The truth is, if we live observing the 10 precepts of the Zen Peacemakers, or the 10 Commandments, for instance, or the Beatitudes, if we're living like that, as good people, we're going to be able to even further calm our minds. And if we're not observing these kinds of things, we're not regulating our lives, we're not going to be able to sit. So they go together, what we're doing in our life, inside and outside. And that's it. That's all I've got for you this morning. I want to thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And before everybody goes, I do want to remind a lot of us live places where there are Zen centers or other places where we can practice, but many of us don't. Because of COVID, every Zen center in the world has adopted kind of a virtual hybrid program. We're in person sometimes and online. Zen Peacemakers, we do meditation every weekday morning, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time for 30 minutes. And it's open to everybody. I invite any of you to join us. There's a link on the website. I don't have it in my head, but you can find it on the website, and we'd love to see you join. Tom's there every day, so Genro.
I would say Google for a Zen center in your city, wherever you live, close, and just check their websites and see if they've got a virtual meditation time. So that'll be in your time zone.
Yep, good.
Okay, I wish there was time for questions, but there's not.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for staying with us. Grover, see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff, for putting this together. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.